The rain came down on Riverrun, as if the sky meant to drown the war before it could spread any farther. It ran in silver threads from the eaves, rattled on the river stones, and turned the banners of the north into blackened rags where the great direwolf hung above the gate. Men had cheered beneath those banners only days ago, crying the name of Robb Stark until the hall shook and old lords beat their cups upon the tables. King in the north, they had called him, King of the Trident, a boy of 15 summers with his father's grief behind his eyes and his mother's hand clenched white upon his shoulder. But that night there were no cheers. The hall beneath Riverrun was narrow, older than the high chambers above it, and colder. The Tully dead had passed through there in other ages, wrapped in sailcloth before the river took them. Yet no dead man had ever been laid upon those stones with half the realm holding its breath. Silent sisters had brought him south in pieces. A lord's bones, a traitor's head. The remains of Eddard Stark, Lord of Winterfell, Warden of the North, Hand of the King, father, husband, fool, martyr, and the spark that had set every dry field in Westeros aflame. Catelyn had insisted on seeing him before he was sent north. The sisters had warned her gently. Robb had forbidden it first, then begged, then stood aside when she looked at him with eyes that were not a wife's eyes or a mother's eyes, but the eyes of a woman who had nothing left in her but the right to endure. She had not screamed when they drew back the cloth. That frightened Robb more than any scream could have done. The head had been sewn crudely back to the body, a kindness done by women who had seen too much to pretend death was clean. Ned's beard had grown ragged on the journey. His face had darkened. Wax and herbs could not make him look asleep. He looked wrong, smaller than memory. No longer the man who had ridden from Winterfell with the king's offer in his hand and doom walking beside him. Catelyn touched his cheek once, only once, and whispered his name as though it were a prayer she no longer believed would be answered. Robb stood behind her with gray wind at his side. The direwolf did not snarl. He did not pace. He stared at the bier, hackles lifted, yellow eyes fixed on the dead man's face, and a low keening came from deep in his chest. The sound drew Thoros from the shadows. No one had meant to let the Red Priest near the body. He had arrived with Beric Dondarrion's broken riders, mud-caked and hollow-eyed, bringing tales of burned holdfasts and lions moving like knives through the Riverlands. Thoros had been a court jester once, a drunk with a flaming sword, a man men laughed at until the war made laughter rare. Yet that night he did not smell of sour wine. He smelled of rain, smoke, and fear. "The flames showed me this chamber," he said. Robb turned sharply. "You have no place here." "No," Thoros said. "I do not." "Then leave." The Red Priest looked at the body on the stone. His face, usually broad with mockery or wine-warm amusement, had gone pale beneath his red beard. "I tried not to come." Catelyn did not turn. All men try not to come to death. Death comes all the same. "Mayandewar. Eh?" Thoros whispered. "Most times." Robb took one step toward him. Around the walls, Northmen shifted hands to sword hilts. Great John Umber, too large for the chamber and too angry for silence, let out a growl. "Say what you mean, priest, or I'll throw you in the river and let your red god dry you." Thoros held up both hands. "I mean only that the Lord of Light is not done with this man." The chamber went still. Catelyn rose so slowly that Robb thought some invisible blade was being drawn through her spine. "Do not profane him." "I would not." "You would not?" Her voice cracked then, not loudly, but like ice breaking underfoot. "You come to my husband's body with foreign fire and mummer's words, and you say you would not profane him?" "I saw him," Thoros said. And now even the great John did not interrupt. "In flame? Doi. I saw a wolf beneath a black sun. I saw a sword falling and a crown breaking. I saw a dead hand closing around the throat of a living realm. I thought it wine. I thought it madness. But the vision came again, and again. And when your men brought Lord Eddard here, the fires in every hearth bent north, though there was no wind. Nanda. Robb's eyes were hard. My father believed in the old gods. Perhaps they sent him to mine. That was the wrong thing to say. Steel hissed free. Gray wind snarled at last, showing a mouthful of white knives. Thoros did not step back. He looked almost relieved, as if death by sword would be simpler than whatever command burned inside him. Catelyn raised a hand. Not to defend the priest. Not to accept him. Only to delay the next horror long enough to understand it. What are you asking? Thoros swallowed. Leave me with him. No, Robb said at once. With you present then, with all your swords at my throat if it pleases you, but let me pray. Pray. Robb looked as though the word disgusted him. He is dead. Yes. My father is dead. Yes. You cannot change that. Thoros' eyes moved to the beer again, and for one strange instant the torchlight in them seemed to burn brighter than the torches themselves. I do not think I can. That is what frightens me. No one spoke for a long time. Outside, thunder rolled over the rivers. Somewhere above, a door slammed in the wind, and the sound echoed like a headsman's axe. Catelyn looked down at Ned, her husband, her stranger, the father of her children, the man she had loved differently than songs promised, but more deeply than songs understood. She remembered him in the God's Wood at Winterfell with snow in his hair. She remembered the first time he had smiled at Robb. She remembered the silence between them after Jon Snow was brought home, and the years it took to fill that silence with ordinary life. She remembered his hand closing around hers the morning he rode south. He is dead, she told herself. But a mother's mind is a cruel country. It knows hope is poison and drinks it anyway. Pray then, she said. Robb stared at her. Mother. Pray, she repeated, and her voice had become Lady Stark's voice, the voice that had held halls silent and sons obedient. And if this is mockery, priest, you will die before your god has time to blink. Thoros nodded once. He approached the bier without triumph. He looked like a man walking to his own execution. He unsheathed his sword. The blade was common steel, nicked and road-worn. He drew it through the brazier beside the stone, and oil hidden in the fuller caught. Fire ran along the sword with a hungry whisper. Lord of Light, Thoros began. The words were Valyrian first, then the common tongue. Then something older or broken, syllables that seemed to scrape the walls. Robb did not listen to them. He watched his father's face. He hated the priest. He hated his mother for allowing this. He hated himself most of all because, beneath the hate, something small and terrified had begun to beg. Please. Thoros laid the burning blade above Ned's chest without touching it. The flames bent downward. They did not burn cloth. They did not blacken skin. They reached like fingers toward the ugly seam at Ned's throat. Catelyn made a sound. The stitches smoked. Greyjohn cursed and stumbled back. Grey wind lunged forward, then stopped, trembling. The torch flames in the chamber stretched long and thin, all leaning toward the bier. The brazier roared. Rain hammered the windows harder, yet the air grew dry enough to crack lips. Thoros' voice faltered, then rose into a shout. Lord, cast your light upon us. Lord, defend us. Lord, bring back your servant from the dark. Ned's hand moved. A dozen men cried out. Robb could not. His breath left him as if he had been punched through the ribs. Catelyn fell against the stone bier, one hand flying to Ned's chest. There was no heartbeat. Then there was. Once. A long pause. Again. The red light at Ned's throat flared so bright the chamber vanished. Men threw arms over their eyes. The smell of smoke became the smell of winter pine, hot blood, grave earth, and something sharp as lightning. The seam where the head had been joined split open, not with blood but with flame. Flesh knitted beneath the fire. Scar tissue crawled like pale roots. Ned's mouth opened. He dragged in a breath. It was a terrible sound. Not a gasp from sleep, not a wounded man waking, but a soul being torn backward through a door that had already closed. Catelyn screamed then. Robb did too, though he never remembered it. Gray wind howled until every dog in Riverrun answered. Ned Stark opened his eyes. They were gray. They were his. Yet for the space of one heartbeat, fire lived behind them. He looked at Catelyn first and did not seem to know her. Then pain crossed his face, and with pain came memory. "Cat," he rasped. She touched his cheek with both hands and sobbed as if the sound were being ripped from her bones. Robb stepped forward like a boy in a dream. Ned turned his head. The movement made him grimace. The scar around his throat glowed dull red, then faded to a dark ring like a burn left by a chain. "Robb," he said. The young king fell to his knees. Around them, the lords of the north stood silent before the impossible. Some crossed themselves in the south runway. Some whispered to the old gods. The Great John dropped his sword, and the clang of it on stone rang like a bell. Thoros lowered the burning blade. His face shone with tears. He looked not like a priest who had proven his god, but like a sinner who had discovered gods were real and listening. Ned tried to rise. Catelyn pushed him down, shaking her head, laughing and weeping at once. "No, no, my love. Stay still, stay still." But Ned's hand found Robb's shoulder. His grip was weak. His eyes were not. "War?" he whispered. Robb could not answer. Ned swallowed, and the scar at his throat pulled tight. "How long?" Catelyn closed her eyes. "Not long. Joffrey? King." Ned's gaze hardened, and in it Robb saw the father he remembered, but changed. The gentleness had not vanished. The honor had not vanished. Yet something had been burned away around them, some last veil of hesitation. "My daughters?" No one spoke. That, a soul." Ned closed his eyes. For a moment he seemed more corpse than man, pale against the stone, breath ragged, fingers cold on Robb's cloak. Then he opened them again and looked at the direwolf banner hanging wet and dark above the door. "Bring me parchment," he said. Catelyn stared. "You need rest." "I had rest." Ned's voice was broken, but beneath the break, there was iron. "It did not suit me." Robb wiped at his face, ashamed of the tears and unable to stop them. "Father, I was named king." Ned looked back at him. Love crossed his face first, then sorrow, then the weight of a realm. "Then we must teach the kings of Westeros what death has taught me," Thoros whispered. "And what is that, my lord?" Ned's eyes moved to the Red Priest. He remembered the sword, the crowd, the steps of Baelor's sept, Sansa's scream, the taste of fear, the cold rushing up to meet him. He remembered blackness. He remembered something in that blackness turning its face toward the world. "That winter does not care who sits the Iron Throne," Ned said. "And neither should we, until the living are saved." By dawn, half the castle knew and none believed it. By noon, every man in Riverrun had heard a different version. Lord Stark had risen breathing flame. Lord Stark had no head until the Red Priest forged him one from smoke. Lord Stark had come back with eyes like a demon. Lord Stark had named Robb false king. Lord Stark had named all kings false. Men who had marched for vengeance now crossed themselves when Ned passed. Men who had never feared battle stepped aside from him in corridors, as if death itself walked in a northern cloak. Ned did not blame them. He feared himself. The maester bled him and found sluggish blood. He pressed a hand to Ned's chest and flinched at the slow, stubborn beat beneath the ribs. He examined the scar around the throat and could not explain why the flesh held. He asked what Ned remembered. Ned said, "Steel." He asked what came after. Ned did not answer. Some truths were too large for rooms. There had been darkness, but not emptiness. Cold, but not peace. Beneath it, far away, Something had moved. Not a man, not a beast. A patience. A hunger older than castles, older than crowns. Ned had felt it as one feels deep water beneath thin ice. He had no words for it except the ones he had spoken waking. Winter does not care. Yet the war cared for nothing else. In the war chamber, the maps remained where Robb had left them, weighed with daggers, cups, and carved wolves. Black markers for Stark, red for Lannister, yellow for Baratheon, green for Tyrell, gray for Greyjoy. So many little pieces. So many men made small enough for lords to move with fingertips. Ned stared at them for a long while. Robb stood opposite him. He had dressed like a king because his men expected it. Mail beneath dark wool, sword at hip, cloak clasped by a direwolf's head. But his eyes followed Ned with a son's hunger. Catelyn sat close enough to touch her husband if he swayed. She had scarcely slept. Her grief had turned into watchfulness, and her watchfulness into a fear more exhausting than grief. It was one thing to lose Ned. It was another to receive him back from a god she did not trust. Brynden Tully stood near the hearth, arms folded. The Blackfish had seen wars enough to dislike miracles. Greyjohn stood by the door because he had decided no man would enter without his leave, not even the gods. Edmure Tully hovered at the edge of the table, eager and uncertain. Roose Bolton watched Ned with pale eyes. Ned noticed that first. Death had not dulled his instincts. It had sharpened them cruelly. Where once he had looked for duty in men, now he saw appetite, fear, calculation, resentment. Roose bowed when their eyes met. Perfectly courteous. Ned wondered how he had ever mistaken courtesy for loyalty. "Tell me everything," Ned said. They did. Robb began with the Whispering Wood and Jaime Lannister in chains. He spoke of victory without boasting, and Ned's heart twisted with pride so fierce it hurt. Catelyn told of Tyrion Lannister released from the Eyrie, of Lysa's madness, of the Vale sitting idle behind its mountains. The Blackfish spoke of Tywin burning the Riverlands. Edmure spoke too often and was corrected by his uncle twice. The Greyjohn cursed every lion in the west and promised to make cloaks of them. Roose said little. Then Robb spoke the words that changed the air. "The lords named me king in the north." Ned looked at the map. He had bent the knee to Robert because the Targaryens had burned their right to rule away. He had served Robert because friendship and rebellion had bound them. He had gone south because honor told him a realm could not be left to poison. Honor had led him to a cell, to a false confession, to his daughter watching his head fall. Now his son wore a crown made from grief. "Did you want it?" Ned asked. Robb hesitated. A king should not hesitate. A boy should. No. Good. Greyjohn bristled. "We gave him that crown, my lord. The North will not bow to the Iron Throne again. Not to lions. Not to bastards born of incest. Not after they murdered you before gods and men. Me. I know what they did to me," Ned said quietly. The Greyjohn's face flushed. "Hey, forgive me." Ned's fingers moved over the little carved wolf representing Robb's host. The wood felt warm. Everything felt too warm since the fire had touched him. Even rain smelled faintly of smoke. "Joffrey is not Robert's son," Ned said. "Nor are Tommen and Myrcella. Stannis Baratheon is Robert's lawful heir." Robb's jaw tightened. "Stannis did not rise for you. Stannis rises for law, not love." "Then let law comfort him." It was Catelyn who said, "Robb?" "No, mother." Robb's voice held. "When father was taken, Stannis did nothing. Renly crowned himself. The Vale hid, the River Lords bled, the North marched. We won the battles. We captured Jaime. We paid for this war in northern blood. Why should we kneel now because a dead king's brother remembers the law?" Ned listened, and in the boy's anger heard every northern hall that had cried Robb's name. He heard the Greatjon. He heard Mage Mormont, Galbart Glover, Rickard Karstark. He heard men who had followed him for decades, and then followed his son when grief demanded a banner. Because crowns multiply graves, Ned said. Robb flinched as though struck. Ned regretted the pain but not the truth. 5 kings now. Joffrey, Stannis, Renly, you, and Balon Greyjoy if that old fool smells weakness. 5 kings mean 5 wars unless someone begins cutting pride away. Cut ours. Great John demanded. If ours bleeds the realm white, yes. The room stirred. Robb's face closed. Catelyn placed one hand on the table. Ned, they chose him. You cannot unmake that with a sentence. No, nor would I shame him before the men who raised him. Ned turned to Robb. You are king because they made you king. A crown given by loyal men cannot be tossed aside like a cloak. But a king may choose his cause, not vanity, not vengeance, survival. Robb said nothing. Ned touched the black marker at King's Landing. We have Jaime. That is a sword at Tywin's throat. We have the truth of Cersei's children. That is a knife at Joffrey's. We have me. His mouth twisted faintly, without humor. That is a ghost at every feast in the South. Men saw me die. They will hear I live. Some will call it sorcery. Some will call it justice. Either way, they will listen. Roose Bolton spoke then, soft as falling snow. And what shall the ghosts say? Ned looked at him. That the North will make common cause with Stannis against the false king, provided the North and Riverlands keep their own laws, lands, and liberties until the Greater War is done. The Greater War? Edmure asked. Ned's gaze moved north on the map, past Winterfell, past the Wall. The one no one is marching to fight. No one laughed. They might have yesterday. They did not now. Robb leaned over the table. You mean the wildlings? I mean what drives them. The others are stories, Edmure said, then looked ashamed as soon as he said it. Ned saw the old fear pass through the northern lords. They had mocked such tales in summer halls, but every child of the North knew them. Old Nan had fed them to generations with porridge and warnings. Dead things in the snow. Blue eyes. Swords that shattered steel. Most men outgrew the stories. Ned had buried the man who outgrew them on the steps of Baelor's Sept. I was sent back for a reason, he said. The words tasted dangerous. Not to win a chair made of swords. Not to avenge myself. To ready the realm. Thoros, standing apart near the wall, bowed his head. Catelyn's mouth tightened. And our daughters? There it was. The question beneath every crown and kingdom. Sansa in a nest of lions. Arya vanished into the chaos of the King's Road. Ned closed his eyes once. We get them back, he said, but not by trading Jaime blindly. Robb looked down. Ned caught it. What? Catelyn answered. There was talk of exchange. For the girls? For Sansa. Arya is missing. Pain cut through him so sharply the room blurred. Arya, small and fierce, chasing cats beneath the Red Keep. Arya with needle hidden in her trunk. Arya looking at him as he promised they would speak again. He had sent Yoren for her. He had trusted one more man in a city built to punish trust. Ned opened his eyes. Jaime stays alive, closely guarded. No Karstark vengeance, no drunken heroics, no mother's mercy. His voice softened on the last, and Catelyn looked away. He is our coin, and we will spend him once. Robb nodded slowly. Send riders after Yoren's party, Ned continued. Quiet men. Track north from the King's Road. If Arya lives, she will not be helpless, but she is a child in a land of wolves. Find her. I'll send them, Robb said. Send no word to Theon Greyjoy. Robb blinked. Theon. He will ask to go to his father. He already has. Ned's hand closed around the map edge. The room seemed to tilt, not from weakness, but from vision. Salt, wind, black sails. A boy smiling too quickly. Winterfell's towers under smoke. He did not know if it was memory, prophecy, or only sense arriving too late. No, Ned said. Robb frowned. He can win us ships. Balon will not give you ships. He will take what he thinks you cannot defend. Ned looked toward the gray marker near Pike. Theon remains with us, honored, watched, and nowhere near the sea. Robb absorbed that. Theon was his friend, or had seemed so. Ned knew the look. The silent resistance of a son discovering his father had judged someone he loved. Once he might have softened the command. Not now. Send word to Winterfell, Ned said. Bran must strengthen the garrison. Sir Roderick is to raise more men from the nearest houses. No harvest stores leave the castle. Moat Cailin must be held properly, not merely named. White Harbor is to prepare ships but not sail until commanded. And Jon. He stopped. The wall stood on the map as a black line. Jon is Lord Commander Mormont's man now, Robb said gently. Ned looked at his son. His sons. Gods. All his sons were scattered across a board that hated them. Jon in black, carrying a truth Ned had buried for love and fear. If Ned had stayed dead, the secret might have died with him. But fire had dragged him back, and secrets burned differently in firelight. Send a raven to Castle Black, Ned said. Not by Maester's hand alone. A rider to carry the same words. Tell Jon Snow that his father lives, and that the wall must be believed. Catelyn's face changed at Jon's name, old hurt rising by habit. Then she looked at the scar around Ned's throat, and the hurt faltered, ashamed before the scale of what had come. What of King's Landing? Robb asked. Ned straightened. The movement hurt. He let it. Pain proved he was present. We write to every lord in Westeros. We write what I saw, what I learned, what Cersei confessed by action if not word. We write that Joffrey ordered my death against his council's bargain. We write that I have returned by the will of powers no lion commands. Men may doubt law. They may doubt honor. They will not doubt fear. Men, Ilya. The Blackfish smiled thinly. A dead man's letter travels faster than a living army. Good, Ned said. Let it arrive before us. And then? Robb asked. Ned looked at the map of a broken realm, and for one heartbeat he saw not carved pieces but faces. Sansa.I. Arya. Bran.G. Rickon.I. Jon.J. Robb.Dut. Catelyn. Men he loved. Men he would have to spend if he failed. Then we make the war smaller, he said, before it devours everyone. The North did not bend easily. It had bent to dragons when dragons made castles melt. It had bent to Robert because Ned had bent, and because the old blood debt against Aerys Targaryen ran hot enough to make obedience feel like vengeance. But the North had not bent in its heart. It remembered kings under snow. It remembered iron crowns and cold barrows. It remembered that Starks had ruled before the Andals crossed the sea, before the Faith raised seps, before the South learned to name itself civilized. So when Ned walked into Riverrun's great hall, alive where death had been certain, the North did not know whether to kneel, howl, or run. He wore no crown. He wore a high-collared tunic to hide the worst of the scar, though nothing could hide the stiffness in his neck or the pallor of a man whose blood had not fully forgiven him for leaving. Ice was gone, melted into Lannister hands, but Robb had given him a plain northern sword. Ned wore it reluctantly. A resurrected man with a blade looked too much like a judgment from songs, and songs were dangerous things. They made men foolish. The hall was full enough to choke on breath. Riverlords lined one side, Northmen the other. The phrase had sent representatives, all pinched faces and calculating eyes. Rickard Karstark looked as though grief had eaten him hollow. His sons had died freeing Jaime, and Ned could feel the man's hatred for the captive lion like heat from a forge. Roose stood among the northern lords with his hands folded, so still he seemed painted. Meg Mormont did not kneel at first. She stared hard, as if testing whether this was some Southron trick. Then she struck the floor with the butt of her spear and lowered herself slowly. The great Jon went down hardest. One knee crashed against stone. "My lord," he said. and the words sounded like surrender and prayer. Ned looked at Robb. There was the first danger. Men were kneeling to Ned, not the king they had chosen. He saw Robb see it too. A flicker only, quickly hidden, but enough. War had taught Robb command. It had not yet taught him how love could become a rival. Ned crossed the hall and knelt before his son. The sound that moved through the room was not a gasp, but something deeper, a whole people struck in the chest. "My king," Ned said. Robb's face went white. "Father, rise." Ned kept his head bowed, his scar pulled. His body hated kneeling, but pain was useful when pride whispered. "The lords of the north and Trident raised you. No man, living or returned, has the right to shame their choice. I am your father. I am your bannerman. I am your counsel, if you will have me. But the crown is yours until you freely set it down." Robb's eyes shone. He reached down, took Ned by both arms. "Then stand beside me." Ned rose, and the hall exhaled. That was how they survived the first fracture. The second came with Stannis. When Ned named him Robert's lawful heir before the gathered lords, the hall erupted. Greatjon roared that he would not trade one Southron king for another. Mark Piper shouted that Riverrun had bled while Dragonstone brooded. Rickard Karstark said the North had no king but the one before them. Men who would have obeyed Ned in any ordinary matter resisted him now because crowns had entered their blood. Ned let them rage. Once, he might have commanded silence too soon. Once, he might have mistaken obedience for agreement. He knew better now. Dead men had time to consider their mistakes, even when death lasted only long enough to change the shape of a soul. When the shouting thinned, he spoke. "I do not ask you to love Stannis. I do not love Stannis. Robert's brothers are proud men, and proud men have helped bring us here. But law matters. If law dies, every sword may name a king, and every lord may call ambition justice. And if law kills us," May gasped, "then law must be harnessed, not worshipped." That silenced them better than any shout. Ned looked around the hall. "We will not kneel today. We will not crawl south and beg pardon of any man. We will send terms. Stannis must acknowledge the North and Riverlands were forced into war by Lannister treason. He must grant Robb command in the field where northern lives are spent. He must swear justice for the murder of our men in King's Landing and the crimes against my house. In return, we name Joffrey false and make common cause." Greatjon spat. "Half a knee, then." "A bridge," Ned said, "between pride and survival." Robb stood beside him, listening. He had not agreed in private. Not fully, but he did not contradict him in public, and Ned loved him fiercely for that. The third fracture came from the Freys. Sir Stevron Frey rose with all the dignity his house could gather and reminded the hall that bargains had been made at the Twins. Robb's crossing had not been free. Marriage had been promised. Lord Walder's price hung in the air like old meat. Ned turned to his son. "Is it done?" Robb's ears reddened. "Yes." "To whom?" "A Frey daughter. To be chosen later." And a murmur moved through the hall. Ned heard the mockery beneath it, the unease. He thought of young hearts, battlefield loneliness, grief, seeking warmth. He did not know Jane Westerling. He did not know the path Robb might have walked without him. But he had seen enough in the map's shadows to know that some wounds came from beds as well as blades. "A king keeps his promises," Ned said, loud enough for all. "A Stark keeps them before he is king. Lord Walder shall have his marriage alliance, witnessed and honored. Send him word that when the campaign allows, Robb will come to the Twins and choose his bride in good faith." Robb's mouth tightened. He nodded. Catelyn watched her son with pity. Ned felt it too. But pity could not be permitted to become indulgence, not when kingdoms balanced on a wedding vow. Then came Jaime. Rickard Karstark demanded the Kingslayer's head. Others shouted agreement. The Greatjon wanted him chained in the hall where men could spit on him. Riverlords wanted him traded for daughters, Sons, hostages, peace. Catelyn said nothing, but Ned felt her beside him like a bowstring drawn to breaking. Jaime lives, Ned said. Rickard's eyes went black. My sons do not. No, and killing him will not raise them. The words struck too close. Karstark's hand twitched toward his sword. For half a breath, the hall stood on the edge of blood. Ned stepped down from the dais. Robb moved as if to stop him, but Catelyn caught his sleeve. Ned walked until he stood before Rickard Karstark, close enough that the grieving lord could have driven a dagger into his belly before any guard moved. I know what it is to lose sons, Ned said softly. You have lost none. Ned had accepted the blow. Bran was thrown from a tower. Rickon grows without a father. Jon has been sent to the end of the world. Robb wears a crown that may kill him. My daughters are in darkness. Do not tell me loss waits only at graves. Karstark's face twisted. Your sons died bravely, Ned said. Do not spend their deaths to satisfy Tywin. Jaime dead is worth a song. Jaime living may buy back half a realm. And if he escapes, then I will answer for it. Karstark laughed bitterly. You have already died once, my lord. That answer is spent. For the first time since waking, Ned smiled. It was not warm. Then, I shall have to be more careful with my second life. The hall remembered how to breathe. By evening, the letters were drafted. One to Stannis, one to Renly, one to the Vale, one to every great and lesser house that might still choose law over fear. One to King's Landing, though no one believed Joffrey would read it without tearing it apart. One to the Night's Watch, sealed not only with Robb's direwolf, but Ned's own mark, pressed by a hand that should have been dust. The ravens left in black bursts against a bruised sky. That night, Ned found Robb alone on the battlements. The rain had stopped. The rivers below moved dark and swollen, carrying branches, reeds, and the wreckage of villages burned upstream. You should sleep, Ned said. So should dead men. Ned leaned on the stone beside him. Robb looked younger without lords watching him. Did you kneel because you meant it, or because the hall needed to see it? Both. Do you think I should not be king? Ned took time before answering. I think you should not have had to be. That is not an answer. It is the only honest one. Robb's hands gripped the parapet. They murdered you. They hold Sansa. Arya is lost. Bran nearly died. How can you speak of making the war smaller? Because I want you alive more than I want them punished. The boy looked away. The king stayed still. Ned wished he could put a hand on his shoulder and make him 5 again, muddy from the yard, laughing beneath summer snow. But sons outgrew the shelter of hands. Sometimes fathers returned too late to learn where to place them. I saw Joffrey order your death every night after the Raven came, Robb said. I saw it when I closed my eyes. I thought if I beat Jaime, if I beat Tywin, if they called me king, it would feel like something had been repaired. Did it? No, Ned said. It never does. Robb turned then. What did you see? When you were dead, Ned looked north. The stars had come out, hard and cold. Enough to know that the wars of men are sparks in a forest already burning. That sounds like priests' talk. It is a dead man's talk. Robb studied him. Are you still my father? The question was a child's question, and it hurt worse than Karstark's anger. Ned faced him fully. I remember holding you the day you were born. I remember teaching you to sit a horse. I remember your first wooden sword and the way you cried when it broke. I remember being angry when you climbed the broken tower after I forbade it. I remember every time I failed to say I was proud because I thought duty would say it for me. I am changed, Robb, but I am your father. Robb's face broke. He stepped forward and embraced him, not as king to bannermen, but as a son to a man stolen and returned. Ned held him carefully, fiercely. And over Robb's shoulder he watched the North Star burn above the river. A second life, he was learning, was not mercy. It was debt. War was uglier when Ned rode through it alive. Before, he had known war as memory. The trident shining beneath dawn, the smell of blood in summer grass, Robert laughing too loudly after battle, because silence would have broken him. Lyanna's bed of blood, the tower, the promise. Those memories had hardened into lessons, and lessons had become stories he told himself about necessity. Now the Riverlands burned around him with no room for stories. Villages were not captured. They were emptied. Fields were not denied to the enemy. They were trampled into black mud where children dug for turnips with fingers blue from cold. Men did not die for causes. They died for being in the path of men with causes. A king's name meant little to a mother with no milk. A lion banner, a wolf banner, a trout banner, a stag banner, cloth above steel and steel above everyone else. Ned rode with a reduced escort, against Catelyn's wishes and Robb's. He needed to see what his letters could not carry. Thoros rode behind him, quieter than any man who had once made courts laugh had a right to be. Beric Dondarrion's remaining scouts moved through the trees. Robb had come because kings could not learn mercy from maps. Catelyn had come because she no longer trusted the world to let Ned out of her sight. They found the village near dusk. It had no name anyone could agree on. The sept had burned. The well had been fouled. 3 bodies hung from an apple tree, not as justice but as warning, though no one knew who had been warned or why. The small folk emerged slowly when they saw no lions on the riders' cloaks. Some recognized the direwolf. One old woman recognized Ned and fainted. After that, the village became a shrine. They knelt in mud. Ned hated it. He dismounted and raised them one by one until he realized there were too many, and his strength was not what it had been. A boy touched the hem of his cloak, then drew back as though expecting flame. A man with half a nose asked whether the gods had sent him to end the war. A mother thrust a feverish child toward him. Ned had no miracle for her. That was the cruelty of it. He had been raised from death and could not give a child clean water. Robb ordered food distributed from their stores. The quartermaster protested under his breath until Grey Wind looked at him. Catelyn moved among the women, speaking softly, taking names, listening to losses. Thoros stood before the burned sept and stared at the charred image of the Seven with an expression Ned could not read. In the shadows behind a broken cart, a thin boy watched them. He had a dirty face, shorn hair, a narrow blade hidden badly beneath his cloak, and eyes that struck Ned like a hand from the grave. Grey Wind smelled him first. The direwolf lifted his head, ears pricked. The boy stiffened. Another boy beside him, broad-shouldered and black-haired, grabbed his sleeve. A fat boy whispered something urgently. Ned turned. The thin boy vanished behind the cart. His heart lurched so hard he nearly stumbled. "Father?" Robb asked. Ned did not answer. He crossed the mud, every sense fixed on the gap between cottage and cart. Grey Wind padded beside him, no longer snarling, whining now, tail low. The broad-shouldered boy stepped into view with a hammer in one hand and terror on his face. "My lord," he said quickly, "we're no one." Ned stopped. The thin boy was gone, but the direwolf pressed past him, sniffed the ground, and made a sound Ned had heard only in Winterfell's yard when Arya came back from hiding with stolen tarts under her tunic. "Arya," Ned whispered. The broad-shouldered boy went pale. Robb heard. In an instant he was beside Ned, hand on sword. "Where?" The hammer boy looked from one to the other, caught between fear and loyalty. "Don't know any Arya." Catelyn had turned. Her face was white. Ned approached the boy carefully. "What is your name?" "Arry," he said too fast. No. I'm Gendry." Ned knew that face too. Not as he knew Arya's, but enough. Robert's jaw. Robert's strength. One more of the dead king's leavings, wandering a realm his father had broken by dying. "Gendry," Ned said, keeping his voice level. "The girl with you, she is my daughter." "No, my lord. She is my daughter," Ned repeated, and the scar around his throat tightened until every word hurt. And if she ran, it is because fear has taught her more than her father did. The boy's grip on the hammer loosened. The fat boy began to cry. Catelyn moved past them all. "Arya!" Her voice tore through the village. "Arya, come out. Please. Please, child." No. No answer. Ned listened. Not to the village. To memory. Arya never came when called if coming meant surrender. Arya circled. Arya watched. Arya looked for exits. He turned slowly, scanning roofs, wood piles, the burned sept, the ditch beyond the apple tree. There, a flicker behind the well. Ned walked toward it alone. Robb started after him. Ned raised a hand without looking back. The girl behind the well had needle in her fist. She was filthy, thin, bruised at the cheek, hair hacked close to the scalp. Her eyes were too large in her face, and in them Ned saw terror fighting hope with both hands. He stopped 10 paces away. "Arya, is it?" he said softly. Her chin trembled. "That is a poor name. It kept me alive." Her voice. Gods. Her voice. Ned's knees almost failed. "Then it is a good name." Arya stared at him. "You died." "Yes. I saw. I know. They cut off your head." "Yes." Her eyes dropped to his throat. "Are you a ghost?" "No." "Are you lying?" "No." "You lied before. About leaving. You said we were going home." The accusation pierced deeper than any spear. Ned lowered himself slowly to one knee in the mud. "I tried." Arya's face twisted. She was still holding needle toward him, but the point shook. "Syrio died. Yoren died. Lami died. Everyone keeps dying. I know. You don't know. You were dead." "Yes," Ned said. And the answer broke something in her. She ran at him not like a child seeking comfort, but like a soldier attacking. Needle fell in the mud. She struck his chest with both fists, sobbing, cursing him, calling him stupid, calling him father, calling him dead. Ned held her through it. He held her while her rage burned down to shaking. He held her while Catelyn reached them and wrapped both arms around her from behind, weeping into the filthy stubble of her hair. Robb stood a few paces away, one hand over his mouth, king forgotten. When Arya finally looked up, she touched Ned's scar with muddy fingers. "Does it hurt?" "Sometimes." "Good," she said, then burst into tears again. They took Gendry and hot pie with them because Arya refused to leave them, and because Ned had no intention of abandoning Robert's son to the road. That choice carried its own dangers. Every living remnant of Robert was a claim someone might exploit or kill. But the boy had protected Arya. That made him Ned's responsibility before it made him a political problem. That night, Arya ate like a wolf and fell asleep against Catelyn with one hand knotted in Ned's sleeve, as if he might vanish if she let go. Catelyn did not move for hours. Neither did Ned. Robb watched them across the fire. "You were right," he said quietly. "About what?" "Sending riders. Looking." Ned glanced at Arya's sleeping face. "I should have kept her from needing to be found." Robb said nothing. Young men still believed guilt could be measured fairly. Fathers knew it had no bottom. Later, when the camp settled and the guards changed, Gendry approached Ned by the horse lines. He tried to bow and made a poor job of it. "My lord." "Ned," he said before remembering what he was. "Lord Stark will do." Gendry frowned. "Arya said you were hand of the king." "I was. She said you were honorable." Ned almost smiled. She was being kind. She wasn't. She said it like it made her angry. That sounds more like Arya. The boy looked toward the fire. "I didn't know who she was." "Not at first. Then I did. Maybe. I didn't tell." No? You did not. I don't want anything. Men who say that usually want to be believed." Gendry met his eyes. There was Robert in him, yes, but not Robert's careless hunger. This boy had been forged by want. I want to not be killed for something I didn't ask for." Ned's throat ached. "That is a fair thing to want. Can you do that?" "I can try." Gendry studied him. "Arya says try and gets people killed. She is not always wrong." For some reason, that made the boy trust him more. The next morning, ravens found them with replies. Stannis' letter was brief, lawful, cold, and edged like a blade. He acknowledged Ned's resurrection without wonder, as if miracles were lesser matters than succession. He accepted the truth of Cersei's children. He demanded fealty. He offered justice. He did not offer gratitude. Renly's letter smelled faintly of perfume. It expressed astonishment, affection, admiration, grief reversed, and absolutely no intention of yielding. Ned read both twice. Robb waited. "Well, Stannis is iron," Ned said. "Renly is silk wrapped around steel. Which breaks first?" Ned looked south, where brothers gathered armies beneath different crowned stags. "If they meet, both may." He thought of the darkness after death. He thought of a shape moving behind a veil of cold. He thought of a realm spending its strength on pride while winter sharpened its teeth. "We ride for the Stormlands," he said. Catelyn stared at him. "Ned, I failed once in King's Landing because I trusted mercy to bloom in poisoned soil. I will not fail again by sending letters where a father's face returned from death might do more." None me ah." Robb looked doubtful. "You think Renly will yield because you ask?" "No." "Stannis?" "No." "Then why go?" Ned folded the letters and sealed them away. "Because if one brother murders the other in darkness, this war becomes a pit no law can climb out of." Thoros, listening by the fire, looked sharply at him. Ned saw the fear there and knew. The flames had shown the priests something too. Renly Baratheon's camp looked less like war than a tourney that had misplaced its singers. Green silk snapped in the wind. Gold roses gleamed on shields. Knights polished armor bright enough to flatter the dawn. Pavilions rose in ordered rows, each more splendid than the last, as if beauty could intimidate mud, hunger, and death into keeping their distance. Ned disliked it at once. Robb disliked it for different reasons. He saw numbers. Reachmen, Stormlanders, knights by the thousands, horses sleek and fed, wagons heavy with grain, lords laughing around cookfires because they had not yet learned to fear the morning. The North had won battles with fewer men. Renly had gathered a kingdom by smiling. They were received before sunrise because Ned had sent word ahead that a dead man did not enjoy waiting on courtesy. Renly came out smiling anyway. For half a heartbeat, Ned saw Robert. Not truly. Renly was slimmer, prettier, with none of Robert's ruinous force, but the Baratheon blood declared itself in the dark hair, the easy confidence, the way men leaned toward him, hoping to be warmed. He embraced Ned without asking permission. "My Lord Stark," Renly said, voice thick with practiced feeling and perhaps a little real wonder. "The gods are better than we deserve." Ned endured the embrace. Some gods are more demanding than others. Renly drew back, eyes flicking to the scar at Ned's collar. To his credit, he did not stare long. "When word reached us, half my camp thought it Lannister deception, and the other half thought Stannis had finally bored the stranger into surrender." Robb's face remained still. Catelyn's did not. Brienne of Tarth stood behind Renly, taller than many knights, blue eyes fixed on every hand near every sword. Marguerite Tyrell stood at Renly's side, young and composed, absorbing everything. Ned knew at once that the girl was more dangerous than most men in the camp. She listened with her whole face. "I have not come to trade marvels," Ned said. "I have come to prevent kinslaying." Renly's smile dimmed slightly. "Then you should have ridden to my brother first." "I have sent to him. I will speak with him after you." "Of course. Law before charm." "Law before blood," Ned said. The words landed. Renly glanced toward the misty fields where Stannis' host lay beyond sight, but not beyond thought. "My brother has no love for blood unless it is written into a ledger. He's Robert's heir. and I am Robert's brother, with the love of the realm and the strength to take the throne. The throne is not a fruit to be taken because your arm is longer." Renly laughed softly. "Death has not sweetened you. No. Has it made you wiser?" Ned thought of Arya asleep under guard in the northern camp miles behind them. He thought of Sansa still in King's Landing. He thought of Gendry hidden among his men, one more spark near dry straw. "I hope so," he said. Renly invited them inside his pavilion, where braziers burned perfumed wood and maps lay beneath crystal weights. Loras Tyrell was there, golden and impatient. Randyll Tarly stood near the back, hard-eyed, measuring Robb as a soldier measures a young commander he resents respecting. Other lords murmured when Ned entered. Some bowed. Some stared as if waiting to see whether his shadow fell the wrong way. Ned wasted no time. "Yield to Stannis," he said. The pavilion erupted. Renly held up a hand, amused despite himself. "You ride across half a war to begin there? It is where the truth begins." "No, Lord Stark. It is where Stannis begins. The truth is that no one wants him. Want is not law. Law did not save you. No. But law might have saved the realm if men had obeyed it before ambition taught them otherwise." Renly's eyes sharpened. "Careful. You stand in my camp. I have stood on a scaffold." Silence. Robb looked at his father, then with something like awe and worry tangled together. Ned felt neither brave nor clever. He felt tired. The world after death had little patience for social delicacy. Margaery spoke into the silence. If Renly yielded, what would become of the Reach? Ned turned to her. "Fed, honored, necessary. Stannis has ships and law. Renly has men and love. Your house has grain. Joined you and Joffrey quickly. Divided you invite Tywin to choose the field and Cersei to sharpen the knives around my daughter's throat." The mention of Sansa softened Margaery's expression by a degree. Whether from pity or calculation, Ned could not tell. Loras stepped forward. Stannis would never forgive Renly for crowning himself. "Then make forgiveness part of the bargain." Renly smiled thinly. "You speak as if my brother bargains. Your brother bargains when the alternative is losing what he believes is his by right. He believes everything is his by right. Then offer him duty," Ned said. "Not affection. Duty he understands." Renly moved to the map. "And what of your son's crown?" Robb answered before Ned could. "My crown was raised against Lannister treason. If Stannis grants justice, protection, and the liberties of my people, I will fight beside him. What comes after can be settled when the false king falls." Maybe. It was not surrender. It was not defiance. It was, Ned thought, a king's answer. Renly heard it too. "You have grown quickly, cousin." Robb did not smile. War is a poor nurse. For a moment, the room held possibility. Ned could feel it like a door unlatched. Renly was vain, proud, beloved, and young, but he was not mad. He could see the shape of victory if pride allowed him to reach for it differently. Margaery saw it. Tarly perhaps saw it. Even Loras in his anger saw enough to fear losing Renly to reason. Then the pavilion flap stirred, though no wind entered. Thoros, who had insisted on accompanying Ned despite being unwanted by nearly everyone, stiffened. Across the tent, a brazier flame bent sideways, long and thin as a pointing finger. Ned turned. Melisandre stood at the entrance in red silk, her hair like copper in firelight, her throat jewel pulsing with a dull inner glow. No guard announced her. No guard seemed to know whether he had let her pass. Behind her, dawn had not yet broken, and the camp beyond looked strangely colorless. Renly's face hardened. "Stannis sends witches now?" Melisandre's eyes found Ned. For the first time since his return, he felt seen not as lord, father, or miracle, but as an object pulled from a flame and held up for inspection. "You are not his," she said. Thoros bowed his head but uneasily. "My lady? The Lord's fire touches many unworthy hands," she said without looking at him. Ned stepped between her and Renly. "Why are you here?" to witness what the flames promised. What did they promise? Melisandre's gaze moved past him to Renly. There was no hatred in it. That made it worse. A king's end. Brienne's sword came free with a hiss. Loras reached for his. Robb did the same. Ned felt the air thicken, not with fear but with cold. Impossible cold. The braziers dimmed. Shadows under the table lengthened. Thoros shouted a prayer. Ned moved before thought. Perhaps death had loosened some door in him. Perhaps the Lord of Light, having paid for him, meant to spend him. He seized the brazier nearest him with both hands. Burning metal tore skin. Pain flared white. He hurled it between Melisandre and Renly. Fire exploded across the carpets. The shadow behind Melisandre rose. It had the shape of a man only because men feared their own shape most. Tall, crowned in suggestion, armed in darkness, it stretched toward Renly with a blade made of absence. Brienne charged it. Her sword passed through and came out rimed with frost. Loras screamed Renly's name. Margaery was dragged back by Tarly. Ned stepped into the fire. The flames caught his cloak, raced up his sleeve, and did not consume him. They hurt. Gods, they hurt. But they clung like living things, red and gold, wrapping around the scar at his throat. He drove his plain northern sword into the shadow's path. Steel met darkness. The sound was not clangor. It was a scream heard underwater. Ned's blade shattered. The shadow recoiled. Melisandre's eyes widened. For an instant, the thing wore Stannis' face. Then, Robert's. Then Ned's own severed face, pale and accusing. It lunged again. Robb threw himself at his father, dragging him sideways. Brienne struck not the shadow but the burning carpet beneath it, scattering flame. Thoros thrust his flaming sword into the blackness and cried the Lord's name until his voice broke. The shadow folded inward like smoke sucked through a crack. It vanished. The pavilion burned. Men rushed in shouting. Renly stood untouched, face stripped of charm. Brienne positioned herself before him, shaking with fury and terror. Loras stared at Ned as though he had become the monster instead of the shield. Melisandre was gone. Only a scorch mark remained where she had stood. Robb beat flames from Ned's sleeve with his cloak. "Father, I am all right. You are on fire." Ned looked down. He was. He stepped out of the burning patch, and the flames guttered as if disappointed. Renly approached slowly. For once, he had no smile ready. "That," Renly said, voice thin, "was my brother?" Ned's burned hands trembled. Skin blistered, then slowly, sickeningly, began to close. That was what pride invited. Renly looked toward the eastern fields where Stannis waited with law, ships, and a woman who could birth murder from darkness. The first true light of dawn touched the tent. Renly seemed suddenly very young. "What do you propose?" he asked. The meeting took place between the camps because neither brother would enter the Uters without making a lesson of it. The field was wet, trampled, and colorless beneath a sky the shade of old iron. On one side, Renly's host glittered despite the mud. On the other, Stannis' men stood fewer, harder, and quieter, their banners snapping with the crowned stag inside a burning heart. Ned rode to the center first. He wore gloves to hide hands that had healed too quickly. He wore a scarf to hide the scar that never healed enough. Concealment was useless. Every man there knew what he was. Dead, returned, inconvenient. Rumor had outridden him again. The camp followers said he had wrestled a demon. Renly's knights said he had saved their king. Stannis' men said he had interfered with the Lord's will. The truth sat among them like a third army. Stannis arrived without ceremony. He dismounted stiffly, jaw clenched, eyes moving from Ned to Renly and back with the displeasure of a man confronted by two errors when one would have sufficed. Melisandre came behind him, red against the gray morning. Her gaze brushed Ned's burned gloves. No surprise showed on her face now. Renly approached with Brienne at his shoulder and Loras behind him, both hands near sword hilts. Margaery remained farther back among the Tyrells, watching with the careful stillness of a player who had not yet decided whether the board was lost. Robb stood to Ned's left, not behind him, beside him. That mattered. Catelyn stood near the northern guards, hood drawn, face pale. She had argued against this meeting until she had no arguments left. Ned had not blamed her. The last time he trusted kings to speak before witnesses, he had lost his head. Stannis spoke first. "You live." Ned inclined his head. "So it seems. My letter demanded fealty. I received it. You did not give it. The matter has grown more complicated." Stannis' mouth tightened. Men make complications when duty displeases them. Renly laughed without warmth. And some men make duty so displeasing no one will follow it. Stannis turned on him. "You crowned yourself. You tried to murder me." "I did not." The denial came too quickly, too harshly. Ned watched Melisandre. She watched the sky. Renly stepped forward. Brienne moved with him. "Something wearing your face came for me in my tent." Stannis' face changed then. Not guilt, not exactly. Horror buried under refusal. He looked at Melisandre. "What is this?" "The Lord's war has weapons mortal men fear to name," she said. "I asked what this is." She did not lower her eyes. "Your brother's strength threatens your throne." The flames showed. "My throne," Stannis snapped, "does not require shadows with knives." For the first time, Ned saw Melisandre misjudge him. She had believed his hunger for justice would swallow all methods. She had mistaken rigidity for emptiness. But Stannis was not a hollow cup to be filled with flame. He was iron. Iron could be heated. It did not become wax. Renly saw it too, and his expression shifted from accusation to opportunity. "Well, that is almost comforting." "Be silent," Stannis said. "You first." "Enough," Ned said. Both brothers looked at him, offended in the same instant and for the same reason. Robert would have laughed. Ned almost heard it. He took a step between them. "Joffrey sits the Iron Throne. Tywin burns the Riverlands. Cersei holds my daughter. Balon Greyjoy waits for weakness. Beyond the wall, the dead are stirring." "Nee." Renly rolled his eyes. "Must we have Grumpkins now?" Ned faced him. "I was dead." Renly's amusement vanished. "I do not know why I was returned," Ned said. "I do not claim holiness. I do not claim wisdom beyond the price of failure. But I saw enough darkness to know that every living sword wasted here is a gift to things that do not quarrel, do not care, and do not care which stag's antlers decorate a banner." Stannis studied him. "The Night's Watch has sent troubling letters. You ignored them. I considered them insufficient. Consider me sufficient." The wind moved across the field. Men who had been too distant to hear still felt the shift. Robb stepped forward. "The North will fight the false king. We will fight Tywin. We will fight for the realm when winter comes. But we will not be treated as rebels for answering treason before Dragonstone answered law." Stannis looked at him. "You call yourself king. I was called king by men whose sons died while you waited." A dangerous silence followed. Ned did not rescue Robb from it. A king must sometimes stand in the silence he creates. At last Stannis said, "I waited because I lacked proof that would move the realm. You had my father's letter. I had a dead man's accusation. Now you have a living dead man," Renly said. "That ought to move someone." Stannis ignored him with visible effort. "What are your terms?" Ned let Robb answer. "The North and Riverlands retain their laws, titles, and self-rule under my command until Joffrey is removed and the realm secured. No punishment for lords who named me king. Justice for Lord Stark's false execution and for attacks on my house." Sansa returned unharmed. Arya is already recovered. Jaime held as hostage until terms are enforced. When the throne is settled and the realm called against the threat beyond the wall, we meet in council to determine final oaths with honor preserved. No. Stannis' brows drew together. Final oaths? Robb did not look away. You ask men to lay down a crown they raised in blood. Give them a realm worth rejoining. Renly smiled faintly despite himself. Stannis did not. You bargain well for a boy. I learned quickly. You ask much. I offer more. The North. The Riverlands, my father's testimony. Jaime Lannister alive. And Renly's host if you can stop trying to kill him. Renly's smile became genuine for one dangerous second. I have not agreed to be included like a horse in a dowry. Ned turned to him. Then agree now. Renly's gaze drifted to his army. Tens of thousands. Roses, stags, bright armor, young knights hungry for songs. He had the larger host. He had charm. He had Marguerite. He had almost had a crown without paying the darker price. Almost. He looked at Brienne. Whatever he saw there mattered more than Ned expected. Not counsel. Not policy. Devotion, perhaps. A mirror that did not flatter. If I yield, Renly said slowly. What am I? Stannis answered. My heir until I have a son. Renly barked a laugh. How generous. Shall I thank you for not making me cupbearer? You are my brother. The words were stiff. Painfully so. Yet they cost Stannis more than any pledge of land. Renly heard the cost. His face changed. Stannis continued, as if each word had to be dragged over stone. Storm's End remains yours. The Reach is honored. Lord Tyrell keeps his offices. Marguerite's marriage to you stands if the faith recognizes it, though no succession flows from it without lawful issue. That last was delivered with Stannis' usual talent for making compromise sound like insult. You command the vanguard under my authority. Under, Renly said. Yes. And if I refuse? Stannis looked at the field. At the men. Got. At Ned. At Melisandre, whose face had become unreadable. If you refuse, he said, we bleed each other until the lions feast. Renly exhaled. No song would ever properly tell what happened next, because songs disliked awkward victories. There was no embrace, no tears, no sudden brotherly warmth. Renly removed his crown slowly. For a moment, he held it in both hands, a thing of gold and antlers and young ambition. Then he gave it to Brienne. Keep it, he told her, to remind me I was almost very stupid. Brienne looked as if he had placed his heart in her hands. Renly turned to Stannis and bent one knee. The field did not cheer. It did not know how. The Reachmen stared. The Stormlanders muttered. Stannis' men looked grimly satisfied. The Northern Lords exchanged glances, understanding that they had seen something rarer than resurrection. A king stepping back from his own reflection. Stannis placed a hand over Renly's head. Rise. Renly rose. If you become unbearable, I reserve the right to say so. You exercise that right constantly. For one strange heartbeat, Robert's ghost seemed to stand laughing between them. Then Melisandre spoke. The flames chose otherwise. Stannis turned. The flames serve the realm. They do not rule it. Her eyes burned. You need me. I need truth more. You think this dead wolf brings truth? She looked at Ned. He's a coal stolen from a fire he does not understand. Ned met her gaze. Then perhaps your god should have chosen a better thief. Thoros made a choked sound that might have been fear or delight. Melisandre's hand moved to the jewel at her throat. Stannis saw it. So did Brienne. So did Robb. 3 blades came half free. Do not, Stannis said. It was not loud. It did not need to be. For a moment, Ned thought she would defy him. Then her hand fell. As you command, your grace. But when she bowed, her eyes remained on Ned, and in them he saw not defeat, but revision. Some players abandoned boards when pieces moved wrongly. Others reached beneath the table. The alliance was sealed by noon. By dusk, riders carried the news across Westeros. Renly had yielded. Stannis had accepted terms. The North had not bent but joined. and the dead Lord of Winterfell had stood between brothers until pride cracked before the realm did. In King's Landing, the news arrived like plague. King's Landing had always been a city of smells, but fear had its own. Tyrion Lannister smelled it before the messenger finished speaking. It rose beneath the chamber's perfumes and rushes, beneath Cersei's wine and Joffrey's sweat, beneath Pycelle's sour robes and Littlefinger's mint. Fear smelled like hot metal touched with rain. "Impossible," Cersei said. The messenger knelt trembling. "Your Grace, the reports come from Bitterbridge, from Haystack Hall, from traders out of the River Road." "Lies," Joffrey snapped. "My father's enemies spread lies." Tyrion looked at his nephew. "Which father?" The room froze. Cersei's eyes cut to him. "Careful. I try never to be anything else." Joffrey kicked the messenger hard enough to knock him sideways. "I saw his head. Everyone saw his head. I ordered it cut off." Sansa made the smallest sound. No one else might have noticed. Tyrion did because he had learned to notice quiet suffering in rooms built for loud cruelty. She stood near the wall in pale blue silk, hands folded, face trained into obedience. At the mention of Ned's head, color had drained from her lips. At the mention of his return, something worse than hope entered her eyes. Hope was dangerous in King's Landing. It made hostages careless. Tyrion turned back to the messenger. "Continue." The man looked between queen, king, and hand, choosing the safest lion and finding none. "They say Lord Stark lives. They say a red priest raised him in Riverrun. They say he stood in Renly's camp when a shadow tried to murder him. They say Renly has bent the knee to Stannis. They say Robb Stark holds Jaime and rides with them." Cersei's cup shattered against the wall. Pycelle began muttering about blasphemy, falsehood, and the unreliability of small folk. Varys looked sorrowful, which meant he had known something before everyone. Littlefinger looked amused, which meant he had known less than he wished, but more than was safe. Joffrey pointed at Sansa. "You?" She flinched. Tyrion moved before the king could say more. "She did not resurrect him, Your Grace. She knew. Unless northern girls now command foreign fire gods from locked chambers, I doubt it." Joffrey's face reddened. "I should put her head beside his old one." Sansa went still. There it was, Tyrion thought. The boy who had been given a throne and mistook terror for strength. Around the table, men lowered their eyes because looking at madness too directly required either courage or action, and both were in short supply. Cersei crossed to Joffrey and gripped his arm. "You will do no such thing." It was not mercy. Cersei simply understood hostages better than her son. Dead girls bought nothing. "She is mine," Joffrey said. "She is the only Stark we have," Cersei hissed. "One Stark," Tyrion said. "Against a living father, a crowned brother, a mother who already despises us, a recovered younger sister if rumor holds, and half the realm now persuaded the gods themselves object to our policy." Cersei turned on him. "Our policy? I prefer sharing credit for disasters. It builds family unity." "Enough." Her voice shook. "What does father say?" "Father," Tyrion said, "is currently trying to burn the Riverlands faster than the Riverlands can send ravens. I imagine this news will sour his breakfast." Varys folded his hands. "There is also the matter of belief." Joffrey sneered. "Peasants believe anything." "Indeed, Your Grace. So do soldiers when afraid. So do lords when advantage recommends faith. Lord Stark alive is not merely a man. He is a story. Stories have crossed more walls than armies." Littlefinger smiled. "Then we tell a better story. The creature in the Riverlands is an imposter, a puppet, a demon in Stark skin, a trick by Stannis witch. Surely the faith will have opinions about corpses walking." Cersei seized on it. "Yes, the High Septon will denounce him." Tyrion rubbed his brow. "The High Septon denounces whatever keeps his jewels polished, but be careful. If you call Ned Stark a demon, men may ask why the demon's first act was preventing a brother's murder, while our blessed king's first act was ordering a public execution after promising mercy." Joffrey drew his sword. Sandor Clegane, standing near the door, sighed. Tyrion looked at the blade. You might cut me down, nephew, but then you would have to conduct the defense of the city yourself. I withdraw my objection for the entertainment value alone. Cersei stepped between them. Put it away. For one moment, Joffrey seemed ready to refuse even her. Then he slammed the sword back into its sheath. I want Stark's daughter punished. Sansa stared at the floor. Tyrion said, no. The word dropped heavier than expected. Joffrey blinked. What? What? No. I am king, and I am hand. The girl remains unharmed. Cersei's eyes narrowed. She did not like being defended by him, even when he defended her interests. Tyrion. He ignored her. Harm Sansa now and Jaime dies by sunset wherever Robb Stark hears of it. Harm her publicly and every uncertain lord runs to Stannis by dawn. Harm her secretly and Varys will look mournful while ensuring everyone learns by supper. No. Varys bowed his head. I am wounded by the implication. No, you're not. Littlefinger's smile thinned. Sansa had value to him. Tyrion did not yet know how much, but enough to note. Cersei turned back to the window, breathing hard. Outside, bells rang for some lesser court ceremony no one in the chamber would attend. We need father. We need ships, Tyrion said. Walls, food, discipline, fewer royal tantrums, and perhaps an explanation for how we intend to beat Stannis, Renly, Robb, the Riverlands, and a resurrected Lord Stark while Balon Greyjoy decides which corpse to rob. No, shy. Balon, Cersei snapped. He has crowned himself before. Men rarely resist repeating their favorite stupidity. Varys said, there are whispers from the Iron Islands. Of course there are. Why should the sea deny itself a chance to worsen matters? Joffrey looked again at Sansa, and the hatred in him had sharpened into something more personal. She smiles. Sansa was not smiling. No, Tyrion said softly. She breathes. Confusing, I know. The council ended with orders flying like startled birds. Ravens to Tywin. Ravens to the west. Ravens to the faith. Gold cloaks doubled at the gates. Alchemists summoned. Smiths commanded. Harbor chains inspected. Scorpions mounted. The city began to prepare for siege, though no one dared call it panic where Joffrey might hear. Tyrion remained after the others left. Sansa did not move until he said, Lady Sansa. She looked up. He had seen many kinds of hope. Greedy, foolish, brave, doomed. Hers was locked behind terror, but it lived. If the reports are true, he said, your father is alive. Her eyes filled instantly, but she did not let tears fall. Do you believe them? Tyrion considered lying kindly. Then he thought of Ned Stark, who had died because lies had been arranged around him like furniture. I believe too many frightened men are saying the same impossible thing, he said. That often means either truth or excellent theater. My father does not perform theater. No, that weighs in truth's favor. She took one breath, then another. Will the king kill me? Not while I can prevent it. Can you? Fair question. Cruel, but fair. Tyrion smiled without pleasure. More often than people expect, less often than I claim. Sansa looked down at her hands. If my father comes, the city will suffer. Yes. If he does not, I stay here. Yes. What should I pray for? Tyrion had no answer. He was a Lannister. She was a Stark. His brother was her brother's captive. Her father's death had been his family's crime, whether or not he ordered it. Pity was cheap when paid across enemy lines. Pray, he said at last, that your father learned something from dying. Far away, beyond the city walls, Tywin received the same news under a war tent near Harrenhal. He read the letter once. Then again, he did not curse. Tywin Lannister did not waste anger on paper. He folded the message, placed it beside his cup, and dismissed everyone but Kevin. When they were alone, Kevin said, "Can it be true?" Tywin looked toward the east, where storms gathered over the lands he meant to break. Truth is irrelevant if enough men act as though it is true. Jaime lives as long as he remains useful to them. And if Lord Stark lives? Tywin's mouth tightened. Then Joffrey has made a martyr into a commander. Kevin waited. Tywin stood and moved to the map. His fingers rested on King's Landing. Then Harrenhal. Then Riverrun. Then the Stormlands. Every path had narrowed. Renly yielding changed the war more than any ghost. The Tyrell host joined a Stannis claim gave law an army large enough to matter. The North and Riverlands gave it grievance. Ned gave it sanctity. "We withdraw west," Tywin said. Kevin stared. "Leave Harrenhal? Stone does not win wars. Position does. The Riverlands will call it defeat. They may call it a harvest festival if it pleases them. We preserve our strength, gather at the Blackwater, and force Stannis to assault the city before his alliance hardens." What of Robb? Tywin looked at the carved wolf. The boy has won battles. The father may prevent him from losing the war. That makes him the greater danger. And the father cannot die, it seems. A thin smile touched Tywin's mouth. All men can die. Some merely require instruction. Nay. At Riverrun, Arya woke screaming from dreams of the Septi. At the wall, Jon read his father's letter until the words blurred. At Pike, Balon Greyjoy listened to news of Stark's strength and reconsidered the price of old revenge. At Dragonstone, Melisandre stared into flames that no longer answered cleanly. And in the south, armies began to move not like scattered wolves, stags, and roses, but like pieces drawn by a hand the realm could not see. The war did not become clean because men agreed to fight on the same side. It became more complicated. Stannis wanted direct assault. Renly wanted maneuver that looked like pageantry and called itself elegance. Robb wanted to trap Tywin before he reached King's Landing. The Tyrells wanted guarantees written, witnessed, and repeated until even the gods grew bored. The Riverlords wanted vengeance for every burned mill. The Northmen wanted Jaime guarded, Sansa freed, and any plan that did not smell Southron. Catelyn wanted her children alive. Arya wanted a horse, a sword, and permission to stab people who had earned it. Ned wanted all of these wants arranged into something less fatal than chaos. They met at Bitterbridge first, then moved east as the host gathered. No singer would have believed the sight. Stannis and Renly at one table. Robb in a gray cloak beside Mace, Tyrell's green and gold bulk. Tarly listening to the Great Jon insult cavalry formations. Brienne guarding a king who had yielded a crown but not dignity. Thoros arguing theology with septons who wished very badly to be elsewhere. Arya perched in corners until Catelyn found her and placed her somewhere more visible. Gendry hidden under an assumed name among smiths, though anyone with eyes and memory might look twice. Roose obedient, useful, and watched. Ned watched everyone. That had become his habit. Death had made trust precious and suspicion necessary. He did not distrust all men. He distrusted the ease with which he had once believed he understood them. Littlefinger had smiled and placed a knife at his throat through another man's hands. Cersei had warned him more honestly than most friends. Robert had loved him and doomed him. Jory had died because Ned had been too slow to see the city for what it was. Now he looked. He saw Karstark's grief growing teeth. He saw Roose count grievances like coins. He saw Frey envoys measuring every slight. He saw Tyrell ambition flowing around Stannis like water around a rock. He saw Stannis endure it because law required allies. He saw Renly learning painfully that charm remained useful after surrender if he aimed it at men instead of mirrors. He saw Robb become harder each day and tried to teach him hardness without cruelty. The Blackwater became the hinge. Tyrion would defend the city. Ned knew it before scouts confirmed the dwarf-commanded works along the river. Tyrion had a mind built for corners. He would not meet strength with strength. He would turn the river itself into a weapon if given time. "We cannot sail blindly into the mouth," Ned said over the map. Stannis scowled. "My fleet outnumbers theirs, and Wildfire does not care. The alchemist stores have been confirmed by 3 sources. Varys leaked whispers, captured gold cloaks, and a terrified pyromancer taken while trying to flee west. The substance had multiplied under Cersei and Joffrey's fear. Tyrion had found it and made it strategy." Renly tapped the map near the chain towers. "If the river can be closed behind the fleet, Stannis loses ships and men before the walls are touched." "I know what a harbor chain is," Stannis said. "Good. Then let us not pretend the obvious is beneath us." Robb leaned over the table. "We draw Tywin away or pin him west before the assault." "Tywin will not be drawn by bait he can smell," Ned said. "He knows King's Landing is the crown now. If the city falls, Joffrey falls. If Joffrey falls, his cause becomes Cersei's grief and nothing more." "No. Then we stop him reaching it," Robb said. "Yes. The plan that emerged was not elegant. Good plans rarely were. Renly's host and Stannis' fleet would threaten King's Landing sooner than expected, forcing Tyrion to reveal defenses and keeping Joffrey terrified inside the walls. Robb would move with a fast northern and Riverland force to harry Tywin's retreat, not to chase glory but to slow him, cut scouts, burn bridges behind him, and make every mile expensive. Tarly would hold the center roads with Reach infantry. The Blackfish would take riders through country only Riverlords knew. Ned would ride between the forces, carrying authority no single king could have managed, because he was father to one, witness for another, debt to a god none understood, and warning to all. Catelyn hated it. "You divide us again," she said in their tent. Ned sat while she changed the dressing at his throat. It no longer bled, but sometimes at night the scar wept clear fluid that steamed faintly in cold air. She cleaned it without flinching now. That frightened him too. "We use the strengths we have. We scatter our children across another map. Arya stays with you. She will not if you breathe a word near a horse." Despite himself, Ned smiled. "No." Catelyn's fingers paused. "You can still smile." "Rarely." I had begun to wonder. He took her hand. "Cat." She would not meet his eyes. "What is it? What are you?" she whispered. The question had waited since the chamber beneath Riverrun. It had ridden with them, slept between them, eaten at every silence. Ned did not release her hand. "I do not know." At last she looked at him, and there was such grief in her that resurrection seemed a small answer to death, and not a cure for it. "You are warm sometimes, cold others. Your wounds close. Your dreams burn the candles down though no flame touches them. The Red Priest watches you as if you are scripture. The Red Woman watches you as if you are scripture. The Red Woman watches you as if you are theft. You speak of winter like you have seen its heart. I lost you. Then I was given you back. Nor do I. What if it asks for you again?" Ned closed his eyes. He had wondered the same. In the dark, he sometimes felt a thread running from the scar around his throat to some far fire. Not a chain. Not yet. A claim. "Then I will try to pay only what is mine." Catelyn's face hardened. "Gods do not ask so neatly." "No?" She sat beside him. For a while they listened to the camp beyond the canvas. Horses stamping, men laughing too loudly. Armor being mended, prayers rising in half a dozen forms. At last she leaned her head against his shoulder. He held her carefully. He had once thought love was proven in the keeping of vows. Now he knew love was also the courage to touch what death had changed. The campaign began under a sky full of crows. Robb moved like the commander he had become, swift and precise. He did not seek Tywin's main strength. He wounded its edges. Supply wagons vanished. Scouts failed to return. Bridges collapsed under night axes. Fords were found blocked by felled trees and defended by archers who melted before pursuit. Tywin continued east, but slower, angrier, forced to guard every mile. Ned rode with a Blackfish for 3 days through rain and ash, striking a Lannister column near a burned holdfast. He killed no man if he could avoid it. Yet, when battle closed, avoidance became another luxury war denied. A knight in crimson charged him, shouting that demons could bleed. Ned parried clumsily. His strength came and went unpredictably, and the man's second stroke cut across his ribs. Pain flared. Ned drove his dagger under the knight's arm and felt life leave through steel. He stood over the body afterward, breathing hard. Thoros found him there. "You cannot save all men." "I know. Knowing is not accepting." Ned looked at the dead knight. He had been young. Younger than Brandon would have been. Younger than Robb would be if the war lasted long enough to age him. "What does your god want from me?" Thoros wiped rain from his beard. "If I knew what gods wanted, I would have been a better priest before terror made me sincere. That is not an answer. It is the only honest one." Ned almost laughed. His sons were beginning to haunt his speech. Tywin reached the Blackwater too late to find an unbroken city waiting for rescue. Stannis had not rushed the river. That alone changed history. Instead, under counsel he despised and accepted, he sent night swimmers to the chain towers. Men died. Some succeeded. Renly's scouts found hidden wildfire barges before they could be placed. Not all. Enough. The first green explosion still turned night into hell, swallowing ships and men in screaming light. But it did not close the river, did not destroy the fleet entire, did not make victory impossible before swords crossed. On the walls, Tyrion fought like a cornered cat with a scholar's memory and a sellsword's mouth. He rallied men who hated him because he gave them targets clearer than fear. He unleashed wildfire where he could, burned siege towers, moved reserves through alleys Cersei had never bothered to know existed. Sandor vanished from the front when fire took too much of the world. Joffrey appeared in golden armor, then disappeared at the first true danger, which harmed morale more than any enemy arrow. Stannis landed south of the city. Renly struck the gates with Stormlanders eager to prove surrender had not softened them. Tyrell banners rolled against the walls like a green tide. Tarly held formation under Arrowstorm. Robb arrived at dusk on Tywin's rear, not with a great host, but with enough men in the right place to turn rescue into battle. Ned saw King's Landing from a ridge as the sky burned green. He had entered that city once with Robert's laughter beside him. He had left it headless. Now his daughter was somewhere inside, and every flame might be the one that found her. "Forward," he said. The northern horns sounded. Between city and river, lions realized wolves had come behind them. Cities do not fall all at once. They fail by gates, by walls, by rumors, by officers killed or bribed or missing, by kings who flee the battlements, by mothers who order guards to protect blood before banners, by hungry men who decide survival has more authority than command. King's Landing failed before dawn. The mud gate broke first, though no one could agree whether Stormlanders forced it or gold cloaks opened it after hearing Tywin had been checked outside the city. The riverfront burned in patches of green that water could not quench. Ships drifted like floating pyres. Men screamed from the Blackwater until their voices gave out. Stannis entered through smoke with a face like judgment and eyes that counted cost even in victory. Renly rode through another gate beneath a torn banner, alive and bright and sobered. Robb did not enter at first. He held the western approach, preventing Lannister retreat from becoming regrouping. Ned went through the King's Gate because the road to the Red Keep was the road to Sansa. He had dreamed of that road in the black after death. The city fought in pockets. A gold cloak threw down his spear when he saw Ned. Another attacked him with a cry of abomination and was cut down by a Northman before Ned could speak. Small folk peered from windows. Some cursed. Some prayed. One woman spat at him and shouted that high lords brought only fire. Ned had no answer because she was right. They found Sandor sitting on the steps of a wine sink with blood on his arm and a dead man at his feet. He looked at Ned and laughed once. 7 hells, they weren't lying. "Where is Sansa?" Ned demanded. The hound's laughter died. Was in Maegor's. Queen kept her close when the fighting turned. Nay. Is she harmed? Not by me. It was not an answer, but it was something. Ned moved on. Inside the Red Keep, memory became a physical thing. Corridors where he had walked his hand. The yard where his men had died. The tower where he had found Robert's bastards written in bloodless ink. Every stone seemed to know him and resent his return. His scar burned. Not from the Lord of Light, he thought, but from rage. They reached the throne room as Lannister guards formed a last line before the Iron Throne. It was smaller than memory and larger than sense. A monstrous chair of blades beneath high shadows, forged by conquest, worshipped by fools, hungry as any altar. Joffrey stood before it in dented gold, face white, sword shaking in both hands. Cersei stood near him, one hand on Tommen's shoulder. Myrcella clutched close by a guard behind her. Tyrion sat on the lower steps, blood soaking half his face from a wound that had split him from brow to cheek. He held a dagger loosely and looked annoyed to still be conscious. Sansa stood beside the queen. She did not see Ned at first. Her eyes were fixed on the floor, on survival, on whatever small place inside herself she had built where Joffrey could not reach. Then Cersei turned, and Sansa turned with her. Ned saw recognition strike. Her mouth opened, but no sound came. She took one step. A guard seized her arm. Ned's sword came up. Release her. The guard looked at Cersei. That was his mistake. In the space of that glance, Brienne moved past Ned like a storm in steel and struck the man's blade from his hand. Sansa tore free. She ran. Not gracefully, not like a lady in songs. She stumbled on torn silk, nearly fell, recovered, and crashed into Ned with enough force to send pain through his ribs. He wrapped both arms around her, and the throne room, the war, the kings, the burning city vanished into the feel of his daughter alive against him. "Father," she said, and the word was so broken he could not bear it. "I have you," he whispered. "I have you now. You died. I came back. I prayed. I heard something. It might have been untrue. It might have been the truest thing he had ever said." Her hands clutched his cloak like Arya's had. Joffrey's voice cracked across the hall. "Take him! Kill him!" No one moved. The remaining guards had seen too many banners change outside. They had seen a dead man embrace his daughter. They had heard Stannis' men in the yard and Tyrell horns at the gate. Loyalty to Joffrey had always been a coin paid in fear. The purse was empty. Cersei saw it before her son did. Her chin lifted. "Lord Stark." Ned released Sansa only enough to place her behind him. "Cersei, you return from the grave and bring an army to my children's door. Are you proud?" "No." "Liar, Ty." "No," he said. "Only tired." Joffrey pointed his sword at him. "You confessed. You called me king. You said you were a traitor. I lied to save my daughter." The words landed harder than any accusation. Sansa made a small sound behind him. Stannis entered then, black armor soot-streaked, Davos at his side. Renly came behind, face grim. Robb arrived moments later, breathing hard, gray winds muzzle red from battle. The direwolf's growl filled the hall when he saw Joffrey. Joffrey stepped back until the Iron Throne's lower blades nearly touched him. "I am your king." Stannis' face showed nothing. "You are Cersei's son." "I am Robert's son." "No," Ned said. Tommen began to cry. Myrcella held him. Cersei's face flickered, and for the first time Ned saw not queen or schemer, but mother cornered by consequences she had outrun too long. "Do not harm them," Ned said. Stannis looked at him. "They are evidence of treason. They are children." Cersei's eyes narrowed, suspicious of mercy. Ned looked at her. "I warned you once to flee. I thought that was mercy. It became folly. I will not make the same mistake. Your children live, but they do not vanish into plots. They become wards until the realm is settled. Nay. Ha. Yeah. I will die first. That can be arranged, Stannis said. Renly sighed. Brother? Ned did not look away from Cersei. Lie for them, then, if you can. Tyrion laughed, then winced as blood ran into his beard. That is crueler than it sounds. Robb's gaze had fixed on Joffrey. He ordered my father's death. Yes, Ned said. Joffrey shook his head. The crowd wanted it. I gave them justice. You gave them theater, Tyrion said. Shut up, monster. Tyrion's eyes hardened. Gladly, your grace, if you will join me. Stannis stepped toward Joffrey. Joffrey of houses Lannister and Baratheon falsely claimed, you are removed from all titles and powers. You will be held for judgment on charges of usurpation, murder under false authority, and crimes against the realm. Joffrey lunged. Not at Stannis. At Sansa. It was the act of a boy who had lost a kingdom and still knew where cruelty might land. Ned moved, but he was too far. Robb was faster. Grey Wind faster still. The direwolf struck Joffrey to the floor, jaws closing on his sword arm, not tearing the throat only because Robb shouted. Joffrey screamed. The sound was high, human, terrified. Ned pulled Sansa behind him again. She was shaking. Enough, he said. Robb dragged Grey Wind back. Joffrey curled around his bleeding arm, sobbing. Cersei tried to go to him, but guards held her. Hatred poured from her eyes like wildfire. You call this justice, she spat. Ned looked at the Iron Throne. Its blades rose twisted and black, 1,000 surrendered swords made into one endless threat. How many fathers had died for it? How many sons? How many daughters traded, frightened, trained to smile beside monsters? No, Ned said. Justice has not begun. It began poorly, as justice often does after war. Men demanded heads faster than trials could be formed. Stannis wanted law precise and unforgiving. Renly wanted stability before vengeance made martyrs. The Tyrells wanted pardons broad enough to secure their influence. The Northmen wanted Joffrey dead by sunset. The Riverlords wanted Tywin chained. Catelyn wanted Sansa far from every council chamber. Arya, upon seeing her sister, pretended not to cry until both girls were crying and insulting each other through tears. Jaime's fate nearly shattered everything. Tywin had been captured trying to withdraw west after the battle turned. Not by Robb, but by Tarly's infantry holding a road Tywin had assumed beneath notice. The great lion yielded his sword with a face carved from contempt. When brought before the council, he looked at Ned alive and gave the smallest nod, as if acknowledging an opponent's unexpected move in Savas. Lord Stark, Tywin said, death becomes you. War has not improved you. No, it has clarified me. Jaime was brought under guard days later, exchanged not for freedom but for the presence required at judgment. He looked thinner, dirtier, still arrogant until he saw Cersei in chains and Tyrion wounded. Then arrogance cracked. Rickard Karstark demanded Jaime's death again. This time, half the hall agreed. Ned stood before them all in the Red Keep's great hall, beneath banners hastily changed. Jaime pushed Bran from a tower. He attacked my men in the streets. He fought for a false king. Jaime's face went still. Catelyn's hand tightened around Bran's last letter, carried south after word of victory. Bran lived. Bran woke. Bran remembered falling. He had not yet spoken the name aloud to all, but Ned knew. Jaime knew Ned knew. He also killed Aerys, Ned said. The hall stirred. Jaime laughed once, sharp and humorless. Careful, Stark. You'll ruin both our reputations. Ned ignored him. He killed a mad king who meant to burn this city. For that act, he was scorned because truth was less convenient than judgment. I will not build the next realm on convenient judgment. Stannis frowned. His crimes remain. Yes. Tywin watched Ned with narrowed eyes, sensing danger in mercy. Jaime will take the black. Ned said. "Not as escape, as sentence, as payment where swords are needed more than heads. His name, claim, inheritance, and White Cloak end. He goes to the wall under guard, with confession sealed and witnessed. Let him spend his life defending the realm he helped endanger." The hall exploded. Karstark called it betrayal. Stannis called it insufficient. Cersei screamed. Tywin's face turned to stone because the wall stripped his golden heir more completely than death. Jaime stared as if Ned had cut him open and found something he had hidden even from himself. "You would send me north?" Jaime said. "To the cold," Ned answered, "where songs matter less. And if I refuse, then Stannis hangs you." Jaime looked at Tyrion. Tyrion, pale from his wound, lifted one shoulder. "I would choose the cloak. Black is slimming." In the end, Jaime chose the wall. Joffrey did not. Joffrey raged through his trial, lied badly, threatened witnesses, cursed judges, and tried to command men who no longer heard royalty in his voice. Stannis would have executed him. Robb wanted to. Sansa said nothing when asked, which told Ned more than any plea. It was Tyrion who suggested the answer. The Faith has always wanted royal piety. Give them the boy. Let him spend his life silent, shaved, and scrubbed, praying to gods he insulted by existing. Stannis disliked it. Cersei hated it. Joffrey feared it more than death once he understood. That decided Ned. Joffrey was stripped of name, crown, and inheritance, confined under the Faith's harshest guard, never to hold title, weapon, or command again. Tommen and Myrcella were declared illegitimate but protected, wards of the crown until marriages or vocations could be arranged without claim. Cersei was confined. Tywin was forced to yield hostages, gold, and the formal surrender of Lannister power under pain of attainder. He did so because survival was the Lannister religion beneath all others. When Stannis finally sat the Iron Throne, he looked less triumphant than inconvenienced. The court hailed him, some sincerely, most prudently. Ned watched from below with Sansa on one side and Arya on the other. Robb stood beside Catelyn. For a heartbeat it seemed the war might end there, under blades, with law restored and lions leashed. Then a black brother arrived from the north, half dead from riding. He carried a hand in a jar. It moved. The realm did not heal. It stopped bleeding quickly enough to notice the fever. That was the best Ned could say of the months that followed. Stannis ruled because law and victory had placed him on the throne, but love did not follow him up the steps. Renly remained in court as heir, diplomat, irritant, and bridge to the reach. Margaery smiled and made men forget how much power her family had nearly taken by beauty alone. Tyrion lived, scarred more deeply than before, retained not as hand but as an advisor no one trusted and everyone needed. Tywin returned west, diminished but not broken. Cersei remained under guard, a caged lioness whose silence frightened more than her threats. Robb kept his crown through Winter's Council, not as rebellion but as unresolved truth. Stannis hated unresolved things. Ned persuaded him to hate dead things more. The Great Council at Harrenhal was proposed and postponed. Too many roads were unsafe. Too many graves fresh. Too many lords wanted to arrive with more swords than courtesy required. So the greater decision waited while the greater threat moved from rumor into proof. The hand from the jar did what words never had. It twitched beneath glass in the throne room before the court, black fingers scraping, blue nails clicking softly, while lords who had mocked northern tales found reasons to step back. Stannis stared at it for a long time. Renly went pale. The High Septon declared it abomination, and then had no useful suggestion. Pycelle fainted. Tyrion leaned close until Ned pulled him back. "Curiosity," Tyrion said, "has treated me better than caution, though the competition is poor." Stannis ordered the realm north. Not all at once. No king could simply command harvests, roads, ships, and armies into winter without breaking what remained. But ravens flew. Grain was counted. Smithies turned from tourney plate to spearheads, arrowheads, dragonglass fittings, once word came from Dragonstone's mines. The Night's Watch, neglected for generations, became the realm's central concern so abruptly that old Black brothers suspected mockery. Ned rode north with his family before the first snows thickened. Winterfell received him like a dream it feared to touch. Bran waited in the yard, seated and solemn, with Rickon half hidden behind him and Shaggy Dog snapping at anyone who came too near. When Ned dismounted, Bran tried not to cry. Rickon did not try. He ran screaming into Ned's arms, all wild hair and fury, hitting him for leaving, clinging for returning. Ned carried his youngest son into the hall. That night, Winterfell was full for the first time since he had ridden south. Not whole. Whole was a child's word, but full. Sansa slept in her old chamber with a guard outside because dreams still brought Joffrey's voice. Arya vanished into the crypts and was found sitting before Lyanna's statue, asking questions no one had prepared to answer. Robb stood in the yard with Theon, who had never been sent to Pike and therefore had never taken Winterfell, never burned boys in Bran and Rickon's place, never discovered how badly he wanted to be feared by people he loved. That mercy had its own bitterness. Balon had crowned himself anyway, but without Theon's betrayal and with the North alert, his raids broke against Moat Cailin, Deepwood Motte reinforced, and White Harbor's ships. Asha Greyjoy led strikes worth remembering, but the Iron Islands found no easy feast. Theon fought them under Robb's eye, laughing too loudly afterward, shaking when alone. Ned did not know whether the boy was redeemed from a crime he had never committed. He only knew some falls could be prevented only before men reached the edge. In the Godswood, Ned told Jon the truth. He had meant to delay. He had delayed all Jon's life and called it protection, but death had stripped that lie bare. Jon arrived from Castle Black with Lord Commander Mormont's leave, leaner, harder, his face lighting at the sight of Ned, and then closing with confusion at the scar. He embraced him fiercely. Ned held him longer than he had when they parted. "Father," Jon said. The word nearly unmanned him. They walked beneath the heart tree after moonrise. Snow drifted through red leaves. The old gods watched with carved, bleeding eyes. Ned told him of Lyanna, of the tower, of Rhaegar, of promises made beside blood. He told him not as a weapon, not as claim, not as burden to be used by kings, but as the truth owed to a son. Jon listened without interrupting. When it was done, he looked younger than he had in years. "So I am not your son." Ned felt the words like the axe again. "You are my son, not by blood, by every choice that mattered after." Did she want me? Yes. Did my father? I do not know. Jon turned away. The snow gathered on his dark hair. All my life I wanted a name. I know. Now it feels like a knife. Most names do, if men sharpen them. Jon laughed once, bitterly. Then he looked back. Who else knows? Catelyn, Robb, no others for now. Lady Stark knows. She does. Jon's face tightened, old wounds reopening in new shapes. And she asked my forgiveness. That struck him silent. Catelyn had done it the night before Jon arrived. Not prettily, not easily. She had stood beside Ned in their chamber, hands clenched, and said she had hated a motherless boy for a sin that belonged to men and war and secrecy. Ned had told her the fault began with him. She had said fault could have many fathers. In the morning, she greeted Jon by name and did not call him bastard. It was not love. Not yet, but it was a door unbarred. Jon wiped snow from his face, though none had reached his eyes. What do I do with this? Ned looked toward the wall, invisible beyond leagues of forest and cold. Choose who you are before others choose what you are for. And if the realm needs a dragon, the realm needs men who will stand against the dark. Blood may help. It may also ruin everything. We will not trade one throne war for another while the dead gather. Jon nodded slowly. Does Robb fear me? No. Should he? No. That answer Ned could give cleanly. Robb had heard the truth and embraced Jon before Jon knew why. The crown had not made Robb small. Not yet. Ned prayed it never would. Castle Black changed all of them. They arrived with the first great royal convoy. Stannis and his queen's men, Renly under protest, and 3 cloaks too fine for the wall. Davos quiet and useful, Tarly commanding disciplined reachmen. Northern houses bringing timber and labor. Riverlords bringing grain, smiths from the west under hostage obligation, and Jaime Lannister in black. The wall rose before them like the end of the world pretending to be architecture. Ned had seen it before. This time it seemed to look back. Jaime arrived under guard but chose to take his vows without chains. His golden hair had been cut. His beard had grown. Black made him look less like a song and more like a man. Jon watched him with open distrust. Bran had not come north to see him. That mercy was denied to them both. When Jaime knelt before the heart tree beyond the wall and spoke the words of the Night's Watch, his voice did not break until the line about holding no lands and fathering no children. Ned wondered which loss cut deepest, Casterly Rock, glory, or the self he had spent years pretending not to miss. Afterward, Jaime approached him. Lord Stark. Brother Jaime now. A ghost of a smile. That sounds like a punishment invented by someone with imagination. It was yours. Tyrion's, perhaps. Mine to accept. Jaime looked up at the wall. Do you think this balances anything? No. Good. I was afraid resurrection made you sentimental. It made me less patient with lies. Jaime's smile vanished. Ned said, one day you will tell Bran yourself, if he permits it. And if he does not, then you will carry the weight without demanding he lighten it. For once, Jaime had no answer. The true war announced itself, not with horns but with silence. Rangers vanished, then returned wrong. Villages beyond the wall emptied without tracks leading away. Wildling envoys came under truce, gaunt and frightened, speaking of dead men walking, of white shadows and storms, of children with blue eyes standing outside tents and scratching softly until mothers opened. Stannis wanted order. The wildlings brought terror instead. Renly, to his credit, stopped making jests after the first white was burned. Ned stood beside the table in Castle Black's shield hall when the dead hand scratched glass again. Around him gathered the impossible alliance his death had purchased, and his return had barely held together. Robb, king in the north, no longer a boy though not yet 20. Jon, black-cloaked, watching the haunted forest as if it had called his name. Sansa, stronger than anyone who mistook gentleness for weakness understood, organizing stores because hungry men betrayed faster than frightened ones. Arya, forbidden from ranging and therefore plotting how to range. Catelyn, whose faith had become a hard, private thing made from loss and return. Stannis, iron before the abyss. Renly, bright still but steadier. Thoros, afraid of his god and serving him anyway. Jaime, hand on the pommel of a sword that would win him no songs. Ned looked at them and felt the thread of fire at his throat pull north. Not south to thrones. Not west to debts. North. The wall's horns sounded once. Men froze. A second blast followed. The hall emptied into snow. The third blast came as they reached the yard. No one spoke after that. Every child in the north knew what 3 blasts meant. Old tales had trained the blood even when the mind refused. Beyond the wall, in the trees, blue lights moved. Not many at first. A handful, then more. Then a line of cold stars among black trunks. The dead had learned patience for thousands of years. Now the living had finally learned to look. Stannis drew his sword. Renly stood beside him. Robb's direwolf banner snapped in the rising wind. Jon moved to Ned's right without being called. Arya slipped to his left. Sansa stood behind with Catelyn, both refusing to retreat indoors. Jaime laughed under his breath, a small disbelieving sound. All this, he said, and the world still finds a worse enemy than us. Ned looked at the blue lights. He remembered the darkness after the axe. He remembered the hunger beneath ice. He remembered being pulled back through fire not to be spared, but to stand here with every mistake behind him and every living soul before him. "No," Ned said. "Not worse." The first dead shape emerged from the trees, slow and pale beneath falling snow. Only clearer. He stepped forward. The scar around his throat began to glow. Fire ran along the edge of his borrowed sword, not bright enough to blind, not strong enough to promise victory, but real enough that the men nearest him saw it and stood taller. The flames lit Robb's face, then Jon's, then Arya's fierce smile, Sansa's lifted chin, Catelyn's tears freezing on her cheeks, Stannis' iron stare, Renly's fading fear, Jaime's astonishment, Thoros' trembling hope. Ned had been a lord once, then a prisoner, then a corpse, then a banner men used because miracles were easier to follow than wisdom. Now he was only himself, a father with debts, a husband with borrowed time, a man who had learned too late that honor without sight could be another road to ruin, and that mercy without strength was only a wish whispered over a grave. The dead advanced. Behind Ned, the living drew steel. For the first time since the sword fell at King's Landing, he did not think of the throne, or the scaffold, or the lie he told to save Sansa, or the boy he had been unable to protect from falling, or the sons and daughters scattered by his failures. He thought of Winterfell's godswood in summer snow. He thought of Lyanna's hand in his. He thought of Robb's first cry, Jon's solemn eyes, Sansa singing, Arya laughing with mud on her face, Bran climbing too high, Rickon running wild, Catelyn beside him in the dark. He thought of all the fragile, stubborn warmth the world made in defiance of cold. Then Ned Stark, who had died for honor and returned for something larger, raised his burning sword against the long night.